Hi, it's Katie Seriani Bowl, back with Katie Stories, number 21. And I'm just gonna roll right into where we were last week because we ran out of time too fast. So I'm not gonna let that happen tonight, okay? Okay. So I was telling you that when I was first dealing with my eating disorder, which I actually didn't even realize I was going to deal with, it just happened when my best friend suggested I try this food, the pain and the pleasure group therapy that was going to happen. She had taken a weekend course and thought this 8 week sounded amazing. And she was interested too, but she felt it was more for me at the time. And that was really gracious of her because if she's watching, I love you. Because I think she instinctively knew that I was going to fare better being in that group alone without anyone I knew, without any friends, even though I would tell her everything. But you know what? Sometimes there's just a really cool thing about talking. Have you ever been a stranger, right? Where you just start sharing your story and it's so much easier. There's no baggage or they don't know anybody that you know. And yeah, I think I really benefited from the anonymity. I can't even say that word, anonymity, of not knowing everybody in the group. I'm just not going to try and even butcher that word for you, okay? I'll look it up later. So, one thing in that group that was great was the first thing that really Janice explained to us was no more rules, no more counting points or calories, no more weighing yourself, throw away the scale, don't count. It was listen, right? Take a deep breath and listen because it's not really about food. So on that note, I want to read you something really cool. I had a little look today through this beautiful book I told you about last week, Eating in the Light of the Moon. Actually, I always thought that was Eating by the Light of the Moon. It's In the Light of the Moon. How Women Can Transform Their Relationships with Food Through Myths, Metaphors, and Storytelling by Alice Johnson. So again, I don't even know that it's a really well-known book, but God, it's such a little gem. So hear me out here, because this is exactly what the that our leader was sharing with us, that food is not the problem. To recover from disordered eating, we must be willing to go beyond the food itself to discover the presence of the real hunger that underlies the urge to eat compulsively. With disordered eating behavior, our true needs and innermost desires are hidden behind urges that only symbolize those real needs and desires. When we are engaged in addictive eating, that is the time to look for what the real hunger is, because that is the moment in which it gets presented to us in symbolic form. By simply eliminating certain foods or striving to restrict our behavior, so controlling, right? We deprive ourselves of opportunities to learn of the true meanings behind those symbols. So she's saying it's really in the moment. It's in that moment where you're opening the fridge or going into the cupboard. If you can be with yourself at that moment, walk away, be still, breathe, and really get in touch with what you are really looking for. Are you lonely? Is it that time of night where, I always heard that women keep really busy during the day. We're great at that, right? Busy. And then when the night just starts to slow down, these feelings come up and we don't always know what to do with them. So is it time maybe to go journal, to just light a candle and get in a bath and take care of you? Maybe you've got a lot of kids and you just can't do that. But maybe it's sneaking away for just a 5-minute phone call to your best friend, just for a phone hug or for some encouragement about what you need. I know that when I look back in those days when I was struggling, my husband and I, we had always had time together before we became parents. We'd have people over and go do things, go play golf after work. And at this point, he was always out in the shop. He had a shop because we had a home now with a garage, and he loved working on cars. And so he'd be out there, and it wasn't like I wasn't welcome to go out there and chat with him. I can do that anytime. But maybe it was a trigger too, where my dad was always out every night gambling during the early years that I talked about ages ago when I read that part of my story. And I remember saying that to my mom, saying, Mom, does Dad, he must not think we're very interesting. How come Dad never wants to just stay in with us and hang out and play cards or watch the Waltons or Little House on the Prairie? And so I never realized that those triggers kind of came up for me again, that, oh, I must not be interesting enough. Jeff's out in the shop every night. And definitely some old triggers too, and motherhood was new. And oh gosh, I'll get into my mom in a sec. Okay, let me just finish reading this. Someone who's addicted to eating is usually starving on an emotional and spiritual level. Her longing for food, or his longing, is a longing for emotional and spiritual nourishment. It is often a longing for the ideal mother, the archetypal good mother, who nourishes us, soothes us, and loves and accepts us just the way we are. Frequently, this is the something she searches for as she stands in front of the fridge. This is what she really is in pursuit of when she sets out for the grocery store. No matter how much ice cream she eats, how many cookies she consumes, or muffins she devours, she cannot fulfill this longing because she is filling her stomach, not her heart, not her spirit. For a woman to recover from disordered eating, she must recognize that she's starving. She needs to understand the food she requires is not material food. She must be able to name her hunger and recognize its symbolic nature in order to nourish itself. And that's true, definitely, if you love sweets, you may be longing for sweetness in your life. And, spicy food's great. Maybe that's, thinking of entertainment or vacation. Comfort food, as we all know, right? Just, big doughy pull apart, cheese pull apart, or pizza, hot bread, yummy cheese is definitely comfort, mashed potatoes. Sort of making you hungry. Yeah, I got ribs in the oven right now. I'm getting hungry too. So again, nothing wrong with being hungry when you're really hungry. But the whole point of the course was to really listen to your body and pay attention to your hunger and start to love yourself again and love your body again and feed it nourishing soul food. So that part. And then also, I also look at it like, I know I ate and kept, I think for me that there was times in my life where if I didn't feel safe, I would put weight on and maybe just even to distance, keep myself from a distance, from a lover or from certain circles or friends. Sometimes even to fit in. I've noticed that where I've been in situations at work with people who are maybe 20, 30 pounds overweight, that I would actually start floating up in pounds. This is a few years ago. I noticed that because I didn't feel like I had anything in common with them. But as soon as I was putting on the weight, now I was in there with them doing the, my pants are tight, I have to lose weight. And suddenly I actually had something in common. That's a wild one, eh? So another thing that this leader in this Food, the Pain, and the Pleasure workshop was saying was women who often, I don't mean to sound unkind because I'm talking about myself back then, trying to figure out when I had some issues with weight and with the way I ate. That a woman who are lacking a self-accepting, especially with body image, are often like a walking Hallmark thank you card. That they have to do more than the average bear to feel like they're enough, for that extra validation. So, always the one to volunteer and step up and take on, oh yes, I can handle that. Oh sure, what's another ball? Oh, what's another ball? Always being the go-to or the one that people can depend on. But carrying the weight and eating, can that be a form of compensation? Absolutely. And yes, it's lovely to volunteer and help. We should. And especially when you're healing, it's a wonderful thing to do, to reach out to others. But there's also, balance, like with everything in life, right? That you got to take care of yourself too. And there's times in your life where, and I know when I was going through those years where I was always, oh, should I volunteer and do this and this? And my mom-in-law, thank you, just looked at me and went, no, you have so many years later, Katie, in your 50s and 60s, when kids are gone, you're a mom and you're busy, and I only have one child, but sometimes you end up busier. You end up taking more other people's kids home, and I had her in things all the time. As you know, she's theater and singing, so we were always running around and doing things. And so, yeah, that's not always the time in your life. If it correlates to your child's school and their well-being, yeah, that's great. You pitch in and help. But sometimes we can all feel that pressure, like we have to do more than we're capable of at certain times in our life. And it shouldn't be for validation. It shouldn't be for someone to pat us on the back or to like us and include us in their lunches or things, right? Because that's just fake. We don't need that. So another thing I was going to say was my mom. And I love my mom, and I always talk about my mom so positively, but I'll tell you, the issues that we had were definitely some Irish guilt. The old Irish guilt trip. My mom had a shopping addiction, and she wanted to shop all the time. And I would, take her out 3-4 days a week, and I'd be getting grumpy, and I've got my young daughter, and I'd have to work. And then I'd, even be saying one night, well, geez, mom, like I've got plans with my friends. We're trying to go to the show, and she would literally say, oh, well, then, you should cancel your plans with your friends because taking me out's more important. But it wasn't just me. She had other people taking her out too on the circuit because she was just like, mad for shopping. And it really got to me. And I had, when I would try and be assertive with mom, she actually looked at me and said, you became really bitchy when you started managing. And, she would say hurtful things like that because she needed me to take her out to keep feeding that addiction. So I did. I went through some tough times. And my mom passed away when my daughter was 5.5. As I was healing from all of that, it was heartbreaking. I also remember, though, before my mom passing away, that she sort of looked at me and said, Kate, I was just saying to Freddie the other day, Katie's really come into her own. So she was super supportive and loving too. Don't get me wrong, right? She just had some issues, and she was dragging me along with them, shopping. So our time is up. See, I knew it would go so fast. And I think I've covered kind of what I wanted to say to you. The last thing was just kids are worth it. I'm going to quickly touch on that book because I mentioned that last week. Barbara Coloroso. When I read this book, Talia was 3 years old. And I don't believe in hitting. Like, I was rarely ever spanked. Oh gosh, that does make other stories though, because I refused when I was young. Yeah, my dad gave me the belt, and I would not speak to him until he apologized to me. I was 4, and he did. He apologized and never hit me again. So I'm a feister when it comes to that. I don't want to be hit, and I don't want to hurt. But my daughter, I had knee jerked and slapped her, and I cried. And so I actually called counseling and got them to send me this book. And this book was so cool. It's about 3 parenting styles. There's the brick wall, and your kid, you're just always on them, and that's it. What? You got picked up for jail? Yeah, you can stay in there for 2 days and learn your lesson. And then there's the jellyfish that, oh, my baby didn't do anything wrong. Like, he'd never do that. Oh my goodness. Like, oh, I'm going to bail you out right away. Come on, honey, let's go for lunch. It's all their fault. So no, we don't want to do that either. It's the backbone, right? And that's where you have the confidence in your kid to say, you messed up. Yeah, like you fucked up real bad, but I love you. And I believe that you can fix this. And what you're going to have to do is come up with the money and fix that window you broke, or go talk to that person and write them a note and tell them how sorry you are, or say it to their face if you said something that really hurt someone's feelings. Just making people own their shit, right? That's the best kind of parenting we can do. You can't always be your kid's best friend. You're supposed to be their teacher. I'm really grateful to say, oops, there goes that book. I'm grateful to say I like to think that I am my daughter's mother and her friend, that we've always had a good balance of that. Because you always want those doors of communication open to talk. Okay, enough talking. It's 14 minutes. See you next week. Have a great night, everybody. I have a cold, so if I'm talking kind of funny, yeah. And so don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm up to 146, and I just passed 3,000 on Instagram followers. Wow, it's like fake Monopoly money, right? I'm really famous. Not. Okay, see you later. Thanks.